Awesome. We'll call to order the Housing and Human Welfare Committee meeting. It's March 17th. The time is 6:37 p.m. We'll start with a call to let me first make a motion to amend the let's start with the call to order, then I'll approve the agenda. Alderman Huntley.
Present.
Alderman Gay, as the chair, is present. Alderman Shandelmeyer is en route. Next item on the agenda is approval of the agenda. But first, I'll make a motion to amend the agenda to move general discussion items ID 6225, Robinwood BGE discussion, energy assistant program, and the Office of Community Services ahead of legislation, and remove ID 6125.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Next item on the agenda. I did. Yeah. Next item on the agenda is approval of the minutes from our meeting on February the 12th, 2025. Is there a motion to approve the minutes from the Housing and Human Welfare Committee meeting on February the 12th, 2025?
So moved.
Second? Oh.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Next item on the agenda is appointments and reappointments. AP 425, appointments, Ms. Tara Wells to the Education Commission. Any discussion? Oh, okay.
Hey, come on.
Awesome. You want to come forward, Ms. Wells?
We saw you sitting back there with our Office of Community Services staff. We thought you were with them.
And you are joining as a representative of Ward 4, and the term is set to expire in June 30th, 2028. Any questions from Ms. Wells? Alderman Shandelmeyer?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I apologize for my lateness. Missed the early bus. It happens. So, Ms. Wells, thank you so much for stepping forward to serve on this commission. Would you mind sharing with us why you're interested in serving and what, in an ideal world, you'd like to accomplish on it?
So I have been an educator for the last 18 years. It's been a long road. I started out in the federal government, and then I knew that that was not for me. And I felt happiest when I was tutoring incoming freshmen with calculus. So I ended up becoming a math teacher. But I haven't looked back since. And I feel like every year that I go into work, or even every day that I go to work, I'm out there helping somebody be somebody. So I just want to continue that. Recently, in like the past 5 years, I've become a board director. And then I felt like, oh, there's other ways to serve. So this is just another stepping stone. And it's also in my city. I've been in Annapolis for the last 8.5 years.
It's wonderful to hear. My wife's also an educator, so I appreciate that. Where are you teach, if you're allowed to say?
Sorry. Okay. So I currently work in Prince George's County Public Schools. I'm a product of PG County Public Schools. I am actually teaching at my alma mater, Bowie High School. But I started my teaching career in Anne Arundel County at Southern for 2.5 years. So it's like a full circle almost. And I taught this is my first year at Bowie, but my last 14 years was at a private school at Elizabeth Seton High School. So I've been a little bit everywhere.
Well, good to hear. You've done some great work in gorgeous Prince George's, and welcome back to working in education here in Annapolis and Anne Arundel County. Thank you.
I'm impressed that you can find so much joy in tutoring people in calculus. I love calculus, but the people who don't like learning it, they really don't like learning it. So
They really don't. Yes.
Good on you.
Thank you.
Agreed. Thank you for your commitment to education, and especially nowadays with the challenges that teachers face in the classrooms.
Mm-hmm.
And also appreciate your service as an election judge as well. We greatly appreciate that. Any other questions or concerns from members of the committee? Alderman Shandelmeyer?
Mr. Chair, if there's no other concerns or questions, I'd like to make a favorable recommendation.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? None. It'll be recommended favorably to the full body. I believe this Monday. Ms. Jackson? No? Our first meeting in April, which is
Spring break? No, just playing.
April the 14th.
Spring break. All right.
Yeah, it's up to you if you prefer to attend the meeting
No,
at
that's
7
fine.
o'clock p.m.
I have a doctor's appointment that day. I'll be here.
Okay, cool.
I'm not going anywhere.
But yeah, we look forward to seeing you then, and the full council will vote then.
All right. Thank you so
Awesome.
much.
No, thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you. Greatly appreciate it. Next item on our agenda, will be general discussion, starting with ID 6225, Robinwood BGE discussion, energy assistance program. Thank you all for joining us. Just state name and professional title, and then you can move forward.
Sure. Good evening. Thank you so much for the invitation. My name is Marche Taylor, External Affairs for BGE.
Thank you so much.
Nice to meet you in person. I feel like we've had a lot of
you
emails.
too. Very nice to meet you as well.
Yeah, and as I've stated to you, you've been incredibly helpful with any concerns that we've had. And I did reach out to, obviously, our state delegation are aware. I spoke with Melissa, the executive director of HACA today. And so most of this has stemmed for committee members or the general public that are not aware. The invitation was extended once we had issues, an ongoing problem in the Robinwood community. And I will allow her to explain, what exactly happened and where we are now, and then where the responsibility lies, whether it be on BGE or the individual property owners to fix the issue, and then how can we assist. And then after that, it'd be helpful just to talk about energy assistance as a whole, and particularly with some of the challenges that our constituents have faced in the last couple of months, and very just informal communication. This is not in any way, our opportunity to bring a hammer down on BG or anything like that. And so I'll turn it over to you. I'll allow you to do an introductory statement and present, and then we'll ask any questions.
No, absolutely. Thank you so much again, Alderman Gay. I really appreciate the opportunity to come and present in front of your committee. One thing I do want to express is I appreciate the partnership I have with each of you. It makes my job a lot easier when I have someone with boots on the ground calling me and letting me know of concerns and ways that we can support the communities that we serve. Regarding the Robinwood community, it looks like we had 2 outages. We had our team take a look, our reliability team take a look. We had 2 outages. One was January 24th, and the second one was February 28th. Upon investigating, we did find out that the issue was on BGE's end. The first 2 outages was caused by cable fault, a secondary cable fault, which made it where that only partial residents were out. During each outage, when the repairs were done, they were made on the fault that suffered the the fault. What we have decided to do to mitigate and make sure this doesn't happen again is prioritize this and get a whole new cable and get this done so that the community won't experience these type of outages. I know on the 24th, January was particularly cold, and that evening was one of the coldest nights. So I appreciate, again, the partnership, and we are working to mitigate, make sure that this doesn't happen again. And as always, as these things do occur, because sometimes they do happen, reaching out, getting me involved and getting external affairs involved would be great so we can help push things forward. Again, the long-term fix has not been done, but it has been prioritized, and it is something that we recognize the issue is on our end and we want to get completed soon.
two things on that. First, I want to also acknowledge Director Simmons for the Office of Emergency Management, who obviously emergency management works 24/7, and he was active in both nights and making sure that the council was aware of everything that was going on and our city representation as well, and that we all had communication. And so wanted to thank him as well. My question in regarding to the cable restoration, which is a long-term fix, is that something that we can expect to happen this fiscal year, or are we talking long-term as in like FY 20?
No. This will be something that's happening soon.
Okay.
My reason of saying long term was just making sure it doesn't happen again. Not that it's going to take over a long period of time to move it, and we have prioritized it. What I can do is make sure that I'm getting notified when we're going to do the work, so your office can know.
Thank you so much. Secondly, I should have included this into the email, and maybe something that you can follow up with me on. I was alerted to electricity issues as well at the Robinwood Community Center, and so again, I'm not sure if that's something that's at fault of the property owner, or it's something that's that we can rely on BGE to work with us to kind of fix. Nonetheless, I just kind of want to pass that on. And I will plug that if it is something of the property owners, if it is the property owner's fault, I do think it might be a good opportunity for us to, work on a community project together that obviously will rely on capital dollars for an underserved community. And I'm not sure what type of community programming you all do in regards to capital project improvement, but maybe that's something that we can discuss with HACA as well.
Absolutely.
In just regards to keeping the lights on, no pun intended, for the rec center. And so,
No, I do believe the recreation center has a different address, so I'll have our team look into that one separately, if that's
Perfect.
okay.
That's totally fine. Any questions from the committee on the Robinwood issue, and then we'll move into general energy assistance. Alderman Shandemeyer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So in regards to the cable fault being the cause, is that something due to cable age, general conditions such as wind, rain, something falling on the power line? What does cable fault mean, and what is the exact cause of that?
So I am going to have to figure that piece out. I believe this was underground, so it might just be age of the actual cable, but I will find that out and get back to your office.
I am glad you brought up age, because I actually was about to ask a question on cable age. Do you have a general sense on what the average age of the cables and power lines are on the community and in the city as well? I know that's a very specific question, and it's putting you on the spot. But.
No, I will say we have aging infrastructure. BGE is 200 and something years old, and we are the oldest gas, at least, company in the country. So our infrastructure is aging. So I can't speak if that was particularly this concern, but I will get more details and follow up tomorrow. But it can vary, and it would really depend on the age of the community and when we put all of our equipment in.
Thank you. I do know that's part of the need for some of the investments that we are having to make in our general power grid. We have, I say we as the royal we, the state of Maryland, BGE in the state, along with PEPCO out on the more western area parts of the state. I don't know who controls energy on the shore in western Maryland, but there's been a lackadaisical approach to updating our infrastructure, and now a lot of these bills are very much coming due all at once because we haven't done any type of maintenance, and that's what happens when you defer maintenance so very long. It's unfortunate, though, that we're all now getting stuck with the bill all at once.
You're jumping into our next conversation.
I apologize.
No, that's fine.
There was a power outage, if you'll allow this small tangent. There was a power outage at Pip Moyer Rec Center about a month ago, if my timeline is coming back. It was when I had the flu, so my memory is a little hazy. Was that a similar issue, cable failure?
Do you know the date, or do you remember?
I don't. I just remember you helped me out because I had a question to see if it was impacting any of
Oh,
the residential neighborhoods.
so
and you were saying,
no.
no,
Okay.
we're good. It's literally just the Pitt Moyer Center.
So that was a planned outage, and that was to do some infrastructure work to prevent the unplanned outages.
Okay, thank you.
But I don't have all the specifics on that, but I could send that over. But that was a planned outage.
Thank you. As I said, that was when I had the flu, so my memory's slightly
No worries.
fuzzy. Yeah, that's all the questions I have on this specific instance, Mr. Chair.
Thank you so much. Alderman Huntley?
Nothing else.
Thank you very much. We can move forward in our next discussion. Did you want to make any comment on the general energy assistance before we ask or start to ask questions in relations to that?
I just again want to thank you for the opportunity. We understand that energy right now is especially a large burden on our customers, specifically our vulnerable customers. And I do want to say that we are working. We are trying to figure out the best way. We have generation problems. We have commodity costs, and we understand. I just want to reiterate, we understand the impact that this has on our communities that we serve, and that we want to be partners and work together to work through these issues.
I appreciate that. Do you, a question for first our assistant city manager, and then I'll open it up to the committee. Do we have the report on our BGE or Energy Assistance Program with the Office of Community Services?
Yep. Jada has.
Oh,
Yep.
okay. So
It'll be part of the presentation. Yeah.
awesome.
Yep. She's all ready.
Well, let me, or Alderman Shandemeyer, do you want to kick it off first with the energy assistance, and then I'll jump in while I look for this really quick?
Well, in regards to the energy assistance program, I guess where I was just in general going with is a lot of our residents right now have been hit very hard by the rate increases. For folks who may not be sure how rate increases work, is the Public Service Commission the Maryland Public Service Commission authorizes rate increases by the utility companies statewide. And they authorize this for the various state utilities, BG&E, Pepco, other various utility companies throughout the state. I believe this rate hike was authorized 5 or 6 years ago and phased in. Is that correct? Or
2024. It's
2024? Okay.
goes for 3 years ahead.
Okay, 3 years
I
ago.
believe,
So
yes.
I was not correct, but authorized last year. And the stated goal was for infrastructure improvements and hopefully to also build new power sources in our state. Maryland is an energy net importer. We get a lot of our energy from Pennsylvania. And we have an aging grid here. I am not going to opine on why that is at this moment in time, or why I think that is at this moment in time. But what is true is a lot of our residents are frustrated and a lot of our residents are hurting. Me personally, my power bill went up about $100 a month, and I have a small town house. Other residents has gone up about 200 rates or more. And people are frustrated. There is the very real worry that this rate increase is just going to CEO pay. And I know this maybe isn't the point of the energy assistance program.
No, I think it is. I think it's all relevant.
Yeah. And this might be more of we can't do anything about rate increases at this city level, but we can be a voice for our constituents to voice their concerns. There is a concern locally that this is all going to CEO pay. A lot of that is fueled by when there is record inflation and at the same time a whole lot of record profits and a whole lot of stock buybacks and a whole lot of CEO raises with other industries. I can't blame constituents for being worried about this. And I don't know the average rate CEO pay of BG&E. I'm not expecting you to tell us right here and there, but do you have documentation with us today that you can maybe share ongoing, like where these rate increases are coming from and what specifically the payment is going to, whether it is going to employee salary, not necessarily CEO salary, but employee, like our workers out on the line, the maintenance workers, what is going to new infrastructure improvements, what is going to newer power plants, what is going to new power lines, and why we need to make these investments. Because we had an outage in one of our neighborhoods during one of the coldest nights of the year because we delayed maintenance. And I understand payment delaying these increases in rates are hurting folks, but so does the consequence of continuing to delay maintenance and not making investments. But we also need to make sure that we can voice to our constituents this money is being spent wisely. So do you have any of the documentation with you today, or do you have any of the background on like what is causing the rate increases or where this money is going?
No, absolutely. There are a couple of reasons for the rate increases. And I think where you're headed is probably our distribution rates. And our distribution rates are a culmination of investments that we have to make for improvement projects, gas projects, electric projects. I'm trying to think if I'm missing anything. We get this question a lot. I'm going to, it is one of those pressing questions around the profit versus affordability. And it is definitely something that we take seriously. When we're creating these rates, we're creating these rates based on what we believe the need will be. It is an open forum, the MYP. We can't come up with them ourselves. The PSC has to approve them, and it is a long process with a lot of input from both sides on whether we need the investments or not. A lot of our gas infrastructure, the work has to be done. We have guidelines, and we are charged with making sure we are providing safe and reliable service. And for the distribution specifically, those are the costs that go into that. Go ahead.
So one of the requests I've heard from the State House, from legislators, has been we're making too many investments in our infrastructure. We're doing too many of these upgrades. Could you please share what happens if we do not make these investments? Does that mean we continue to defer maintenance? Does that mean we continue to not produce our own power and maybe import more power? Does that mean everything just kind of stays as is, but we start getting more, we're not able to like compete as efficiently? What does not making these investments mean?
We certainly want to keep the lights on, so we have to make the investments in the infrastructure. When it comes to the distribution rates, we also have the cost of the commodity. We also have an Empower cost that's a mandate from the state. But when it comes to the work that we have to get done, I think it is, we come up with what we believe that work should look like and where we start, and the PSC kind of chimes in and says whether they agree on that investment or not. But the work that we're doing is to continue to provide the safe and reliable services, and we have to do the work. And I do think that we have to make choices, and we have to look at what potentially has been failing, where's the oldest infrastructure, in making those decisions. While we're thinking about ways for the long-term relief for customers and looking at profit versus affordability, we're also looking at expanding our energy efficiency programs just to help support and mitigate the long-term overall use of energy to help drive those costs down. But when we're talking about the work that we have to get done, because we are we're mandated and we're a public, regulated company, we have to do the work to make sure we're keeping the lights on and the gas flowing safely and reliably for our customers.
Now, as a public utility, could our constituents, if they have concerns about these rate increases going to CEO bonuses, could they have a source to check that? Or these rates increases are going? Or is that?
Good evening. My name is Danielle Gooden. I am the Senior Manager of External Affairs with BGE. I wanted to touch on the last thing that you also said, kind of about if the work isn't done, does that mean, does that mean that the system will fail, right? I don't want to say yes off the break, but the work that we are doing is to make sure that we continue to make that make sure that we are reliable. While Marche did make mention of the system being very old, we also are, BGE or Exelon is really kind of in that last quartile in the nation when it comes down to like the expenditures and capital funds going to STRIDE or the infrastructure to make the reliability best. And then back to your last mention of what is transparency, right? For the customers to make sure that the money or the rates are going to reliability much more than someone, definitely doing a lot of the discussions that is going to our CEO's profits. Yes, I think that transparency does come from the PSC. And while they have their meetings and the customers and residents can come to those meetings and have that discussion. And I think that's possibly why the MYP was I guess, thought of as a good transparency versus previously where the rates would just go and they would just give a thumbs up or a thumbs down.
So where can our constituents find access to these meetings? I'm going to tell you the truth. I know two of these commissioners. I have no idea how to access these meetings.
You said I'm sorry. You said you asked the commissioners, or you know the commissioners.
I know two of these commissioners, and I personally have no idea how to access these meetings. And I have two of them as contacts on my cell phone. How can, and if I don't know how to do that, I'm sure there are multitudes of my constituents who certainly don't know how to do that. How can our constituents access these meetings if they wish to learn more?
Great question. And to be very frank, I'm unsure if even we have like a link on our site to say, hey, go there. I'm not sure where that easy link is for our customers, your residents and constituents to find the PSC and to reach out to them.
Marche, can you speak into the mic?
Oh, sorry. Yes. Sorry. I just was saying I would take that action item to see how we can lead customers and residents to see it and so that they could be a part of it.
Thank you. So I do appreciate you coming in, listening to us ask these questions. It is not my goal, as our chair said, to come in and shake our fist. I understand the need for investment, but we really need to let our constituents know that these rate increases are justified. Because if there comes out a story in the next 8 months that all of this went to CEO bonuses and that a bunch of people in the C-suite are getting tens of thousands of dollars end of quarter checks, city council isn't the least of the group of politicians that are going to be able to shake their fists. I think a whole lot of folks in Maryland are going to be up in arms, justifiably. But if there is transparency and actual investments done, it is certainly painful, but it is at least understandable. And I do want to share a human story here because I grew up in rural Maine, very, very cold winters, and I knew a family that, because of lack of access to power, froze to death when I was growing up. So that has not happened to any of my constituents this year, or any that I'm aware of, but I know people that's happened. So there is a human consequence to things getting out of reach. And I ask that when these prices go up, you keep that in mind and that these investments actually get made towards the things that make the grid more reliable, that we actually start trying to work to get more power produced here in Maryland so that future rate hikes don't need to be done, and that maybe we can even start bringing rates down. Thank you.
No, thank you. And I appreciate the sentiment. I appreciate the partnership. I want to keep the communication between us open. I like the questions. I want to get you the answers. And I just appreciate the opportunity.
If I may, I also will say that we'll send you, if we haven't already, kind of the breakdown of the drivers for the bill, right? Because some of the drivers that are on the bill that our customers are seeing are not solely, the BGE's change of cost, right? So, we have the the RMR, the Empower, there's so many things on there. And I think that I hear you and I hear our customers loud and clear. And sometimes that's a disconnect of information of where this money is going or what it is. So we'll make sure that we get you that this week, if not tomorrow.
Thank you so much. And let me, 1 second. Thank you, Alderman Schneidermeyer, first, for getting the conversation started so that we can have these discussions. And just on the point that you made, Ms. Danielle, correct? In the end, the bills are so confusing, whether you get it online or whether you get it in paper. And I don't think it's the sole intent of an organization to mislead its customers, but it's unintentionally misleading customers in what they perceive to be cost attributed to both the individual company and then cost attributed to projects that the state or municipalities are pursuing. And so that's part of the change in transparency I would like to see. And I know that's not something that you can't do just for the city of Annapolis residents, and it may not be something that can be done in the short term, but the basics of a bill should just be easy to understand. My grandmother passed away a year and a half ago. She was 99, and she kept, most of her electricity bills. And it was remarkable for me to see, like 1966, they've got like 2 lines. It's like, light and whatever else they were using. It was $56 or $22 or whatever she was paying. It was incredibly cheap back then. Obviously, times have changed. But as my teacher used to say, keep it simple, stupid, KISS. Like, just make it so that the average person is able to understand questions on their own. Before I go into more, did you have an opportunity? I know we chatted briefly this morning. You said that you brought numbers as it related to the county. Is that something that you wouldn't mind sharing?
No, absolutely. I can share it. And I did want to say I can understand that the bills are confusing and everyone's not computer savvy, but on our website, we do have an Understanding Your Bill that kind of outlines everything that was helpful for me, who didn't understand it as well. So what I'll try to do is grab some screenshots. As I said, everyone's not savvy. Everyone doesn't go to the website, but it is an option. Also, calling our customer care team, they understand that right now, every penny means a lot to every customer, so they are prepared to go through the bill and explain everything so that it's understood where and what it is they are paying. I want to make sure I say that.
That would be great. And before you read the numbers, let me just read our numbers. This is just, and this is a tiny snapshot of what the Office of Community Service, our staff here, has worked on. BGE statistics. Fiscal year 24, they served 53 residents. 53 applications were submitted. My apologies. 25 applications were accepted. We awarded $30,832. An average size of the award was $1,233. In fiscal year 25, which we're in now, so applications should potentially come in. 58 applications were submitted, 17 awards were made for a total of $13,668. The average size of the award, $805. So over the course of the last year, our small city has given BG&E $44,500, or Exelon, I'm sorry. I call it BG&E because when I was a kid, it was BG&E. And they had
It's
the
still
green-
BGE.
green
Yeah,
and
no,
white
no, you're
trucks.
right.
Okay. And to the alderman's point, while I'm not deeply concerned about executive pay, I do think that is, a huge, huge problem, and at some point should be looked into. But I have problems with large corporations, for example, and I'm just using statistics from online. BG&E's revenue last year was $23 billion, with an operating income of $4.3 billion and net income of $2.46 billion.
Mr. Chair,
so, wait,
are you looking at Exelon?
Yeah, Exelon, or if you have better
I was
statistics.
just going to say
into-
Exelon is BGE parent company.
well,
so, but yeah,
they're in the same. It's the same thing. 20. No, you're totally fine. Thank you. My point is, why can't a company walk and chew gum at the same time? I think what pisses me off more than anything is the idea that in order for individuals, and particularly our most vulnerable, to live and have a better quality of life, we have to spend more. Thus, they are charged more. And that doesn't make any sense to me at all, because I look at these numbers and I'm like, obviously you have operating income, you have capital needs and all of that stuff. But I just can't imagine a world in which there can't be better support for individual families, businesses, and even municipalities that are trying to meet these challenges for their constituents. How can that be addressed? What programs do you, and as I alluded to previously, is Exelon, the parent company, or BG&E providing direct capital, and in which ways are they doing so? Could you give us some examples, and maybe particularly in Anne Arundel or Annapolis?
I can, and if you give me 1 second, I'll pull a couple of numbers.
Thank you so much.
But we do make a lot of investments in all of the communities that we serve. Let me just grab something really quickly. So on Friday, I did ask our corporate community impact to send over just some information on what we have programs through our corporate community impact that pretty much the goal is to achieve sustainable outcomes in the communities that we serve. Our priority is to ensure that BGE goals and values directly align to those of our community partners. And together, we want to drive change in the communities that we serve. And our corporate community impact team is responsible for that throughout our service territory. So it looks like in 2024, that's the only numbers I have for Anne Arundel County specifically, and I may have more detailed information about Annapolis. We spent about $350,000 in 17 organizations across Anne Arundel County, with 10 of these organizations located in Annapolis. And what I can do is, so that I'm not just talking at you, I could probably send you a snapshot of some of the organizations that we support. But one of the things that we do make sure that we're doing is that we are partnering with our communities and making sure we're looking at those vulnerable areas and that we're making investments, supporting those grassroots organizations that are in the communities, that's trusted, that's doing the work. And we make sure that we're partnering and supporting them the best we can.
I have two quick questions, and then I'm jumping straight to the alderman, and we'll wrap this up. I want to be respectful of everybody's time. But this is a critically important issue because while we may not have main weathers, one thing we can all agree on is global warming and climate change. And Annapolis is directly in line to be impacted by all of that. This and the summer will be here soon. I know you all sent out I'm so sorry I can't find the numbers now, a press release to the county, and it talked about, okay, we're not doing shutoffs through February. We're allowing payment plans to be set up over a 12-month period, and the consumers can pick the how it's paid out, all of that, which I think is fantastic. My question is, why not just allow blanket forgiveness? This is something that's happened relatively soon as it relates to the rate increases and the issues that individuals have faced. And particularly for a city of our size, it could range somewhere between $100,000 and $200,000. I'm assuming, just based off of how many people applied for rental assistance. We're not looking at in totality how many people are behind. I'm concerned that the warmer months are approaching, and because people have not paid off what was structured to be paid off in February, or paid off or on track to pay off existing things, they'll be shut off. And particularly in warmer months, I'm legitimately concerned about that. I know in my ward in Eastport Terrace and Harbor House, a community of over 700 residents, there have been instances where we have had elders who have been behind on bills and stuff, and it's been shut off. And granted, you all have turned it on, and particularly for the ones that have oxygen and stuff, within 24 hours. But I think that's still too enough. So why not just do a blanket forgiveness?
Alderman, I wish I could answer that for you. I totally understand, and I understand and respect the sentiment about being concerned about warmer months, because the rates will probably level out now that the weather's getting a lot less colder. But when we get to July and August, when people are cranking their air conditioners, we're going to be running into the same issues. I understand it. Believe me, my manager here has the same conversations. We work externally facing, so the things that we see every day and the things that keep us up at night are the same as yours because of where we sit within the company. What I do want to say is I cannot answer the question regarding just the blanket forgiveness, but what I do want to say is just some ways that we can work together and partner, some ways that we can think about how we're communicating, utilizing, and this is not going to answer your question, so don't get mad with me. But what I do want to say is utilizing every tool we have and every resource. And I'm going to ask you that when you're out talking to your constituents, that you express how important it is to communicate with BGE as soon as there is an issue, as soon as you know that a payment is coming and you can't afford to pay it. For those extraneous circumstances, you give me a call and say, hey, I have a family at 123 Street that needs some extra support. How can you help me? So the ways that we can help and the things that I can do in my role is partner with you to make sure that we're coming and speaking to your constituents and telling them how to use budget billing, or asking them, have they used this? We have ways that you can find out because this is usage. What's hitting us now is usage. It was really cold and it's going to be hot. So hey, you're using a lot of energy this month, waving the flag for customers. Those are the ways that we're trying to at least get in front of customers and say, listen, you have a little bit of control here. Pay attention to these things, sign up for these things, take advantage of every tool available while we figure out how we can best support the customers and the residents. I want to be as genuine as I can with that answer. We take back all of these questions to our leaders and we look at them just like how you guys are looking at us. So please know that I'm going to take every question you all have asked back and request an answer so that I can get back to you. But what I am going to share right now is the best way that we're going to be able to support our customers and your constituents is to partner, work together, call us out to community meetings, let us have the conversation. I would love to bring a open house, BGE Energy open house to Annapolis. We had one in Anne Arundel County, and I know that wasn't feasible for the residents here, but I would love to partner with you to create a location, find out where we can do it. But right now it's going to be communicating, having those conversations quickly so that we can support, create payment plans to do whatever we can so that people aren't turned off.
Thank you so much. And I will do that. I will follow up with you so that we can host that. And I will. I also just follow up. I think again, just to hit the nail on the head one more time, we've given BG&E in the last 2 years, and I know this is not a lot. After I've just said that you all have or your parent company has a net income of $2 billion, $44,000 is nothing. However, when you're dealing with a municipality of 40,000 people and $179 million operating budget, it gets tough. We've had to transfer money from other purposes to put into our rental assistance and energy assistance program so that we can continue to make sure that our residents have energy. And that's something that I don't want to keep doing because it robs other programs and opportunities. My last point, and what I asked my city attorney to look into, obviously, because I worked on state legislation that would have authorized the state to do this, and the state's Attorney General, Anthony Brown, supported the idea of a no pass-through provision. And I'd like to see them give the municipalities the authority to do that. I understand that energy is a public utility and it has to be maintained, through public financing. I have no issue with that. But I think to the point that the alderman has made, when there have been, decades of neglect, and particularly in our most vulnerable communities, and the state has to, again, get in a position of forcing, special programs, et cetera, to take care of these problems, it then puts the cost back on the user, our residents. And that shouldn't happen. I think no pass-through provision should exist so that BG&E, Exelon, with their $2.4 billion in net income, take care of those projects without passing the cost on to the user, because that's exactly what's happening. I don't truly believe that they are putting it in the CEO's pocket. I just think they are, woefully mismanaging how they respond to these projects, and particularly in our most vulnerable communities. And lastly, I do also want to just commend them. I mean, there are 2 African-American women speaking before us in this age of Trump. And so I will commend them for, having a diverse team. I think that really does mean a lot to me because I think it's clear that you understand issues that we're talking about. So thank you. I'll turn it over to Alderman Huntley.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Appreciate you both being here. And Marcia, I thank you so much for how responsive you are. It seems like sometimes I email you at 10 o'clock and you respond to me at 10:01. So thank you. I recognize the city council doesn't set these rates. I understand PSC is the one who is setting these programs. I'm not here to berate you guys. But what I did was ask my constituents to share questions with me that they have not been able to get an answer with. Some of them I've filtered out as things that you've given us the answers to already. But I've got a handful that I'm hoping we can get answers from you all tonight. I'm going to try and make them really pithy. I hope you guys can make your responses pithy, and we can all wrap up at a reasonable hour. So I'll just jump right in. One that I was kind of building off of something Alderman Chandlemeyer said, I want to know a little bit about the stock buybacks from Constellation Energy. Particularly, my question is, what is the trigger for the company to believe that stock buybacks are appropriate? And how does that tie into revenue versus investments and other costs?
For Constellation,
Yes, I believe that's who did the recent stock buybacks.
You said for Constellation or Exelon? Constellation, we don't.
I'm sorry, I did mean Exelon, not Constellation.
okay.
Yes, sorry.
Yeah. And can you ask that again? Because I want to make sure because I do not have an answer for you. I want to be transparent there.
My question is, what are the guidelines from the board of directors of Exelon that allow for stock buybacks? And under essentially what triggers the company to choose stock buybacks? As a layman, my sense is that is something that happens when you are doing particularly well. And so at a time when we recognize up here and recognize from you this need for investments and costs, that seems surprising.
I will get an answer for you.
Appreciate it. I'll try it. Like I said, I'll try and be fairly rapid fire. And if you don't have an answer right now, that's just fine. I want to ask next about gas lines, and I'll try and make this two questions in one. Well, no, let's just start with, some folks are concerned that new gas lines are being replaced. Is there, I understand, of course, we have 200-year-old ones that need to be replaced. Is there a minimum age of the gas lines that are getting replaced? Meaning, are there any under 10 years old that are getting replaced? Or can we confidently say all are older than X years?
I cannot confidently say that, but I will say that I am more than sure anything that's being replaced is older. There has to be the type of material, or it has to have some sort of leak on it. And it could be a small leak, but we are not going to spend funds to redo something that's new and it's not necessary to be replaced.
So our priority at this time, our priorities is definitely to maintain those cast iron pipes that are 70, 80, 90 years old. So we're not trying to go into streets, into our communities to tear up those streets in order to use capital. That is totally false. Not going to do it. But those infrastructure that we see are 70 years old. And don't quote me on that's the year we look for, that's 70, but definitely 10 years. If it's doing well, we're going to move on. We're going to our priorities so we can make sure that we can continue the reliability.
Wonderful. Thank you. Appreciate it. And if you guys can come up with a sort of baseline number, that would be helpful. Sticking on the topic of gas, a constituent described to me that he has had his gas contract terminated. And I understand this is something that the Public Service Commission has allowed, but I'm just wondering if you can get into some more detail about what authorizes the termination of long-term gas contracts, and what authorizes that in terms of a PSA decision or state law that would authorize that.
There are many things. So without knowing the details of this constituent, it's kind of difficult to say, right? We've definitely seen instances where gas termination was due to not acknowledging or ignoring the calls for stride work, right? Where we're tapping in everyone else, and we need to put everyone else in the community onto the line, and they've had a couple of calls, right? Then we've seen, possible theft of energy. That also is termination. So there's a lot of there are a lot of reasons where someone would be terminated, but everything it varies. So without that information, we wouldn't really be able to tell you what happened to that gentleman. But I would love to. If you give Marche an address or us an address, we can definitely find that out for you tomorrow.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I'll check with him and see if he wants me to share that, and then follow up with you.
Yeah. Does he? I'm so sorry. Does he have power? Is he restored gas service now?
As I understand from this email, his contract for gas service has been terminated.
The contract.
But
Okay, please
I can
ask him if we can handle that for him. That we would love to do that.
Okay, will do. Thank you. Moving on, moving over to sort of generation. I'm curious if there are any particular examples you can point to of not distributed like solar, but new energy generation plants, be they, I guess it's not nuclear, but be they gas or coal or any of those that are coming online.
Can you ask that again? I want to
Sure.
make sure I give you the right answer.
Sure. Do we have any centralized, meaning not distributed solar? I'm sure we're bringing in new solar fields, but any centralized new plants that are coming online that we can point to? No, not solar. Not solar. Like presumably it would be natural gas, maybe it would be coal.
What I will say is not too far from here, there's a lot of legislation going on around new generation in Maryland, since we have Brandon Shores and Talon getting ready to retire, which is going to, if we're importing about 40 now, we're going to be importing about 60. So that is a hot topic. We are no longer generating because we're just distribution since we separated from Constellation. So right now we're not a part of that, but depending upon what the state moves and how they move, we shall see. But I know that that is a priority. Did you want to hop in? No,
Okay.
but generation is a hot topic, and I think by the end of this session, I may be able to better answer that.
Sure.
Especially here.
Tell me if this is also not applicable because it's kind of along those same lines. But is battery storage, same question, but for battery storage rather than new generation?
That's a part of legislation that's going on too. There are definitely the lack of generation in Maryland is really important. It is driving a lot of our supply and demand issues, which impact rates as well. And sorry, I thought you wanted to say something. So that is a part of a couple of bills. I can't tell you the bill number, but if you would like to know specifically any bill around those, I can send those to you so you can have it tomorrow.
No, that's helpful. I think I was actually reading about it in the paper this morning, so appreciate it. I got 3 more. Trying to keep it rapid fire. Trying to understand. So just like you guys said, and this will be my longest explanation, but just like you guys said, a lot of the issue here is around the fact that we had a much colder winter, right? I recognize, price went up, but also quantity has gone up for a lot of folks, myself included. Somebody had to know that was going to be it was going to be the case that these rates were going to go up in winter, right? We didn't know how cold the winter was going to be per se, but why not have the rate increase occur at the time when there would have been the lowest usage rather than one of the times when there's the highest?
I wish I had a clear answer for you on that. I really do, but I appreciate the sentiment. I understand your point, and that is something that I will say, everyone in my role, believe me, we're saying the same things. So, but I will follow up with you with an answer for that, because I appreciate the answer.
Yeah, I think that we'll definitely work with our regulation team, right? So when they're going with the PSC, that is not just you guys would know, it's not a one-day thing. They don't go with a case and say, hey, are we ready? Let's rock and roll. So it takes some time. So I think that's also going to be like a sub-part to that question of like, how long did that take? When did that happen? When was it going to be put forward? Did BGE choose the state, right? Because what we want to do, especially because we have our external affairs team here, we don't want to have to come to the fire with our customers as well as for the company itself. We don't want the issues that we are seeing now, the burden of high bills, the burden of cold months. So it has definitely been on the forefront of our mind. You'll see, like, our CEO has gone out to talk about it. Our vice presidents have been everywhere in session here and in every other community and councilmanic district to talk about these burdens. And we did not ask or want this to happen because we do put the customers at forefront.
Thank you. I got quite a few older residents in my ward, and they certainly, many are not tech savvy. Plenty are, but many are not. Some of them also don't always want to talk on the phone. Problems with your hearing aids, a number of things. So a lot of folks want to come talk to somebody in person about their bill. I understand, this is before my time, but I understand that Annapolis used to have a BG office. People could come in and talk in person. Somebody lives in Annapolis, they have questions about their bill, they want to go talk to somebody in person. Where can they do that?
Cole Marche, no, just joking.
She might be right. So let's talk about ways we can make that happen. And that's why I brought up the Good Energy Open House, because what I will share is when customers come in, I am not going to say they're skipping out happy. That's not my point and where I'm going. But what I am saying is when they come in, they are steaming hot angry. And by the time they leave and they have spoken to someone in person and they've been heard, they leave at least a little more understanding. They are not happy. I'm not trying to paint that picture, but they at least appreciate us showing up. They appreciate the conversation. They appreciate the transparency, and they appreciate the help. So any way and any opportunity that we can get in front of customers, we want to do that.
Sometimes they're.
Okay. Sometimes they're happy.
All right, and then my last question.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, no, please.
Last one. And this is the only one I'm going to read verbatim. But Barbara said, my last fuel bill was more than double what it was last year. This is after I set the thermostat down 2 degrees, re-insulated the basement foundation, turned off many more lights, turned off the recirculator on the hot water heater, replaced and upgraded my hot air furnace. I am a senior citizen. What else can I do?
We do offer a service, and it sounds like she's pretty savvy and thinking about already energy inefficiency she may have in her home causing any type of heat to leak out or seep out. But we do have a program where we can do a quick energy kind of come out, look and see if there's some sort of way that there's some energy escaping. It's maybe an hour or two. I'm not really sure how long it takes, but if that's something that they would be comfortable with, that may be a place to start. Also, again, I hate pushing people toward apps because it's just not feasible for everyone, but that is a great way to just watch it. And like I said, if you're using that, high usage alerts are important and they're helpful, especially right now. And if someone needs to come out, because oftentimes people think that the meter's wrong or something's happening on that end. So if we need to do things that way to reassure that everything is working properly, there are ways. And she can call customer service. If customer service does not give her what she's looking for, you can contact me and we'll see how we can support her specifically.
Thank you both again so much for being here, and thanks for giving me those pithy responses. Appreciate it.
No, I appreciate being here. Thank you so much.
Alderman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a question in regards to upgrades and the process around it, specifically going through our process. If you were to do an infrastructure upgrade, whether it's a gas line update or a power line update here in the city, do you have to go through our traditional permitting process here in the city?
Absolutely. All of our work has to be permitted.
Would you describe that process as a fast one or a slow one?
Oh,
Yes,
wow.
leadingly.
Well, I have a lot of friends in those offices, so I'm going to say it's done efficiently. But of course, permitting is an issue everywhere. It is not just here.
Not just here. Thank you. That is a diplomatic answer for a problem that we all know is a roadblock. What are some of the speed bumps that you most frequently encounter, to put it diplomatically, here in the city that we can look for ways. And why I ask this for folks who may be curious where I'm going on this, slow permitting, slow projects adds cost, adds time, and it makes for a less reliable network that is more expensive to run. So if we can find ways to streamline it, it can hopefully lead to a more reliable network faster and bring costs down.
I appreciate that, and
Yeah.
everyone back at the office is going to appreciate that. What I would like to do, if you would not mind, I would like to talk to our project managers so we can get some really good, clear barriers so that it could be something that we could talk through, and it can not just be me, speaking anecdotally, but speaking through real process concerns and barriers that we have, because I know we have them.
Thank you.
We have them.
Thank you. Now, us doing it only here in the city would only be a very small help step forward, but it would need to really make a huge impact, something that all the BG&E jurisdictions need to do. But there is something to be said for making things a little bit better where we have control. And hey, if we maybe iron out some things in utility infrastructure upgrades, maybe we can inspire some of our neighbors, and maybe that can help make things a little bit better for more people and just try to improve things.
Well, my heart just skipped a beat, and I wish I had you everywhere across our territories because the sentiment is clear. I understand it. And if we could get a meeting and if we could really sit down and have a larger conversation, we definitely want to be a part of moving that forward.
Okay.
Awesome. Thank you. And again, we greatly appreciate the relationship you've allowed us to establish with you and your office. It really does mean a lot to us. I know the follow-up for me is to make sure the Good Energy event, we find a date, probably use Pitt Moyer in the Alderman's district because it is the most central for all constituents.
The Fighting Five.
Yeah. And so I'll definitely be in touch. Any other questions? All right. You're all set. We greatly appreciate it. Look forward to continued discussions in the future. And thank you. If you all are having dinner in the city, somebody call Gavin for that, please.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
All right, next item on our agenda is Office of Community Services. They don't have an ID, but they can come on up. Sorry to keep you waiting, but as ID 2825. I'm sorry to keep y'all waiting, but as I used to explain to one of my favorite colleagues, Lynetta Farrow, when she used to work here, when you are a public servant and the constituents pay you, the least we can do is commit 4 hours on our twice a month or whatever the hell it is. And so I'll try to be brief with you all. You want to give a kickoff or?
What?
All right. City's Office of Community Services. It is the most contentious and controversial office in the city.
Is it?
It is, because I think we all realize the work that you all are doing. And I think there are several older people that want to have their hands involved in our work, myself included. Some of us are trying to figure out how to get it to become a department, to stabilize it. There are a lot of things. And so I think these are just helpful. One, so the public obviously knows what you're all doing. The council knows what you're all doing. But also because it's budget season. And obviously all of your projects come out of amendments. I really, and I say that, you know, if we don't amend the code, the Office of Community Services doesn't have money. They have paid employees with no program budget. So I'll turn it over to you now, and we'll let you go through, and then we'll ask questions at the end, so that for time's sake.
Thank you. So Aisha Young, OCS manager. The majority of this will be done by Jada and Aaron, but I'll be here for any support. So first slide, just to go through the org chart. Myself again, Aisha Young, OCS manager. Social work care coordinator is Aaron Lee. Our community services coordinator is Dante Hill, who is back here. I don't know if you all had a chance to meet Dante. Our Hispanic case navigator is Ismania. Our rental assistance associate, Jada, of course, and enrollment associate is Evie's. All right, I'll give it to Jada. You wanna go?
Hi, I'm Jada, last name Boykin. So, is it good? Oh, all right. So this is just a little bit of the funding and the timeline. So the funds for the rental assistance comes from the taxes. I guess we stopped accepting new applications for fiscal year 25 in October because that's how fast it went, and we opened in like June 22nd. And then we receive about 10 or more applications a day. And most applicants request between $1,000 and $6,000. And we do get a lot of repeat applicants from previous years. So here are exact numbers. So in fiscal year 23, we had about 219,000, but that's because we had money before the program actually started, so we had a little more. We had 121 applicants. We were able to help 103 with rent and then 5 with BGE. And the average size of the award was 2,135. And top 3 neighborhoods was Bay Ridge, Annapolis Gardens, and HACA. So in 24, we had 153 applicants, 95 rental awards, and 25 utility. So the total amount was about 159,000, with the average size being 1,681. So in 25, we had 151 applicants, 84 rental, and 17 BGE, and the total amount was 143, with the average size being 2,000. So as you can see, the total amount awarded went down. So we were able to help less people. You went over this already, but for BGE, in 24, 53 people applied for BGE. We were only able to help 25, but just with 25, that was 30,000. And the average size was 1,233. And then this year we had 58 applications. We only were able to help 17, and the total amount was about 13,000. Oh. Okay.
All righty, good evening. I just wanted to take over the next portion, and this was more so the BGE assistance numbers that were provided from the Benevolence Coalition. So just a quick background of the Benevolence Coalition. Oh, so sorry, Erin Lee, Social Work Care Coordinator with the Office of Community Services. But yes, the Benevolence Coalition is actually a support network for Annapolis residents that might be in need of financial, food, or social service assistance. The coalition is made up of churches and different nonprofit organizations that are all based here in Annapolis or Anne Arundel County. Normally, they will have monthly meetings, resources are shared, coalition organizations can make requests or recommendations for services. And the Office of Community Services, we were actually invited by Lori Nelson of the Annapolis Evangelical Presbyterian Church, and we're just so happy to be a part of that particular network. So I also brought some numbers from the different members of the Benevolence Coalition. We did put out a quick call. These were the ones who responded. These numbers do not tell the entire story, but I think definitely take like a really good snapshot of how different nonprofits are assisting, different Annapolis nonprofits are assisting Annapolis residents here. I would say some of the numbers, for example, we have the Annapolis EP Church. We also have St. Vincent de Paul, as well as Community Action Agency here. Here's some numbers. They go more in detail in the slideshow that we printed out. We also have numbers from the Partnership for Children, Youth, and Families. And we do, I would say definitely every church and participant with the Benevolence Coalition, I would say has probably touched at least one family, whether it be in their in their group, or maybe someone either asking for assistance outside of their group. whether it be one family they may help with bills over the winter, up to, I would say, the largest amount I'd probably say assisted was probably through St. Vincent de Paul Society. And I'll hand it back over to Jada.
All right, so we do know that we did receive the $30,000 to go back into the fund for rental. So we do plan to open it back up. However, we just have some suggestions on how to make this last. So previously, if you've seen, we helped 25 people only with BGE, and that was 30,000 right there, and that can happen in 1 week. So we were wondering to have a better vetting process. So, for example, like in our application, if we were to ask that someone require like a most recent bank statement, and that way we would be able to justify, make it a little bit easier to see who may need the help more than another person.
Let me jump in. So just to explain a little bit more, we had a conversation with Partners ACDS to discuss how they do their vetting process. And it came to looking at bank stubs or their bank accounts, to figure out what they're prioritizing their spending on. You know, if we can see that you're spending, I think, 80 on DoorDash or getting your nails done or hair done, but your rent isn't paid, especially if you are receiving additional assistance from the city or from the county, then that's a conversation that we need to have, you know. So we just want to figure out how we can vet the process, because we did have some incidents where a property manager said to us that one of the tenants had their rent money, but he chose not to pay it because he knew the city was going to pay it. So we're trying to avoid that type of situation by having a better vetting process.
All right. And then so also we have a lot of people that like apply for a balance that's like 6 months old. So that's like kind of backwards because you already 6 months behind. So us being able to pay 1 month is not going to clear your balance. So what we hope to do is they can get approved if our payment will bring them to a zero balance and not just pay something, but they're still going to have an ongoing balance. So also, you have to be making payments while if we're going to give you money, you're trying to pay something. Because I know some people will say like, well, I'm not going to pay the late fee, but then the late fee starts adding up and then they're just like, I'm not going to pay it. But also, we've had a person that applied in 2023 for a BGE bill, and they were right at $3,000. So that's our max. So we paid it, and they didn't apply again until August 2024. And the last payment that was made was our payment. So you just didn't pay because you knew you were going to come back and ask us to pay it again. So that's kind of like not fair to people who actually need it. And I've also seen like on social media, people say like, why should I pay my bill if the city can? So like, I don't think like you really don't need the help. You're just using it. And then.
Can I ask, Ms. Karen, you mind if I ask a question earlier? Or you want to wait? Okay.
And then that's it.
Well, moving forward, we want to, of course, the program is supposed to be for people in need, and that's something that we want to pay attention to, and also realize how are we helping the clients get to stability. So, you know, like Jada said, making sure that this brings you to a zero so that you're not constantly on that wheel of just trying to catch up. So moving forward, these are our recommendations, and that is it, I believe. Yep. We are open for questions.
And I think that just to add to that, you know, part of the question that council had asked and that the team has asked is, how do we make these dollars last as long as possible? And part of that is trying to make sure that they go to the people who really need it, right? We're going to end up spending all of it because there is a huge need that's out there. And so any amount that we can really redirect where it'll do a lot of really a lot of good, I think is part of where the team is trying to go.
Trying to go. Yeah.
And then also maybe for the 30,000 that we're about to open back up soon, we might not be able to give out $3,000. We might have to keep it like 500 or less. Because we get 10 applications a day. If I give 10 people $3,000, it's done.
Dante Hill, community coordinator here. I think also Aaron and I do Food Fridays with OEM, and we're out in the community each Friday talking to people, and doing giving the Food Friday baskets to people. One of the things also that we're learning is that with the economy at whole, there are people who are typically this support goes to our lower class citizens who need the support. However, all can understand that there's going to be a greater need that's coming, right? And so if we're still in the same space, it's going to be a continuing cycle of we don't have it, we can't help. And then people are like, oh, well, the city can't support us. So I just wanted to mention that because that's coming. Yeah.
All right, let's take it from the top. Alderman Shandemeyer, do you want to start? Alderman Huntley.
Thanks. No, I just wanted to go back to what you guys were talking about. You said increasing or improving our vetting, and I was just wondering if you could go into a little more detail about that, and in particular, emphasize how do we do that while not overburdening you guys? I mean, I don't want you to spend all day finding reasons not to pay people. That's not a pleasant way for you to work. So I guess my question is, how do we have really vetting that makes a lot of sense and do it in a way that's efficient for your time?
Well, honestly, speaking with ACDS, they do have a lot more staff than we do, so they are able to implement that vetting process. I just think that is a conversation we will have to have with Jada, specifically being the rental person, of exactly what will be realistic for her and what we can actually, I guess, take on. We haven't had that exact conversation yet because we wanted to get you all's approval and everything, but moving forward, that will have to be a conversation of, what she can take on and then how we can support moving forward. But
I think there are a number of ways of approaching that question. There are a number of means tested programs out there that people participate in. And I think that kind of leveraging, so I'm talking like SNAP, TANF, right? Where someone has already gone through a process of establishing, here's what my income looks like, here's my household size, all the rest of that. Depending upon a particular person's circumstances, there's some of that kind of work that we can leverage and just say, like, if you met the qualifications for this, like, we're fine, right? So I think there are some ways of approaching that question, and in particular, one of the things that I'm really happy about that this team has done has been really reaching out to a lot of those partners across the community and in the county and stuff. And so to the extent that we can leverage the work that they do as well, we don't have to recreate it. We don't have to recreate it wholesale, right? To the extent we can leverage that work of our partners, I think that's to our benefit and to clients' benefit as well, where they're not regurgitating the same story again and again.
In my head, the way that, like, some people, like, when they apply, you can, just from a pay stub, you can kind of see who really needs the help. But, like, there are some people who are, like, right at the threshold with 4 people in a household and everyone's working. And then those are the kind of people that we would say, we wouldn't require it for every single person, but maybe if we feel like we need more information to compare you to one other person, then it'll be like, hey, okay, can we have this extra additional information to see if you meet qualifications all the way? Because it would be a lot to be every single person.
And to piggyback off what Jada is saying is that I think access to information is very important. some people don't know that this is available, that this assistance is available. So there's a small pool of people who are continuing to use the service, right? So when we say sustainability, when we want to do for citizens, but it's really just this amount, the same people we're seeing reassign. So it's like, how much are we actually helping the city, or are we helping the pool of people who actually know that this is available? You understand what I'm saying? And so we're running into that over and over and over, right? And so it's like, we actually want to help everybody who actually needs it. And then again, we only have $30,000. So when that's out, it's like, okay, man, we'll get cases where people, and you know that these people need this, but based on what has been written, we have to help these people, right? And so we can't say, hey, no, we don't think that this doesn't meet the criteria. And then we get another story after the money has been spent. And it's like, so how are we really helping the city? You know, is it access to information, or is it really us being able to support people who really are in need? You understand what I'm saying? So
Yeah,
that's a thing
No,
too.
I appreciate that.
Thank you.
One other question while we're on this topic. What is the metric by which we say this vetting process worked or it didn't, right? Like, I think we kind of all have an idea in our head of what we were trying to get at, but say you do what do they call this? Like a binary test. You try vetting process A for a little while, and then you try vetting process B for a while. How would you be able to come back to me and say, well, A worked better than B?
So I do keep like a real
Thorough.
organized track of every single person that applies. But also we do use a database for applications. So ArcGIS, I am able to pull these Excel numbers every fiscal year, and I do that, and I do have a tracking sheet of all of this. So because I do it myself, I know who's repeat. But say someone else was to if they had to take over this job, they're going to have to go back to each fiscal year at my sheet and see like, oh, this person came back. And we say like every single time, how much did they request? How much did we give? So I feel like we would know if that vetting process is working. But also another idea was, in order to get assistance, you need to attend some type of financial course, so that we're just not keep giving you this and you're not learning anything. So if they would have to attend a course and then get assistance, I feel like that would also, it would be less applicants, because some people are just going to not want to do that.
Yeah, so piggybacking off of what Jada just said, so we do have a workshop scheduled next week with our partners ACDS to provide that financial literacy or empowerment training. And then we were approached by Isaac Vineyard, I think is his name, to do that same thing where he was in alignment with what we were thinking, meaning that they have to complete this program first in order for them to apply for the rental assistance, because again, that's how we reach sustainability. You know, we don't want you to continue. This isn't something that you're supposed to continually apply for. This is something to help you catch up. But in the meantime, how can we also assist you moving forward so that you don't get here again? Because we also want to get to that prevention piece, right? So I think moving forward, that will show us. And then the money, holding on to the money longer. You know, I think that will also prove if the vetting process is working, determining how long we keep the money, because 2 months is extremely too quickly.
Thank you. I think you've answered my question. What I heard from you is it's about reapplications and it's about how long the money lasts.
Money
Those are
lasts,
sort of
yes.
our two metrics. I'll just say, for what it's worth, this is a comment, not a question, but I really favor you guys getting lots of information. And then as long as you have a way to be able to check if you're working, I like the idea of trusting you all as professionals, not having a rigorous, we have to give it to this person or that person, because I think when you have that experience, I would much rather believe in your professional judgment rather than stick you with a overly restrictive protocol. But to do that, we got to be able to go back and say, hey, is this working? So,
And
appreciate you.
I was going to say, and I think that's, you know, the reason that some of our partners do that vetting process too, because they also want to hold on to their money and to, you know, just have a better outcome when it comes to this program for everyone.
Yeah. Thank you.
No problem.
Good. Thank you. I'll stay in line with the rental assistance first, and then I'll move forward. I think I'm actually kind of a little mad about what I'm hearing. Almost sick to my stomach. We have a moral obligation as public servants to provide needs to the general public. The more important part of that is meeting the needs of our most vulnerable citizens. And that's in line even with the vision that's stated here. It says, the Office of Community Service, our vision is to foster healthier, safe, empowered, and thriving communities in Annapolis. And to do that, you need the programming. And obviously, to do that, you need the money. And so I'll clarify in saying I'm not pissed at the idea that we want sustainability and we want our programs to last, but there has to be a way in which we do so. That one doesn't overburden the constituent, and two doesn't put the fault of economic circumstances on the resident.
Yeah.
You know, who the hell cares if you need to rental assistance or a BG assistance twice in 1 year? That's not mine. That's not your. That's not anyone in this room's, I think, call, to make. And I think that's why when we created this, there was leeway, initially in how we adopted the program. And obviously then later we found out we had to change things so that it's, once per calendar year. That I'm fine with adopting new terms, but I really, really want us to just be careful in how we use that language, and how we make the constituent feel. That's first. And I agree with you on everything that, for the most part, that you all have stated, and I even had said so to a certain extent in emails. And I was glad that we waited until we got to 35 and until we can have this conversation. So I'm gonna just go through my things, and then we can obviously, and Alderman Shandemeyer and thus forth. The first thing, I wish that we could get more than 3% of the hotel and entertainment tax, and I'll explain it again. How this started was that Arts in Public Places was awarded 3% of the hotel's or the city's hotel and entertainment tax. I went to then Delegate Shanika Henson, and I said, hey, they're getting this money. And obviously we had ARPA at the time, so it was in the 200,000s. They're getting this money. How can we create programs, for our most vulnerable constituents to help this? We put in this 3%. This is what happened. And admittedly so in the beginning, it was also COVID. And so we were trying to spend it as quickly as possible because the programs that we're talking about, our partners in the county, either didn't have the funds or they had hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people in line. No exaggeration. So when we created ours, it was like, all right, well, we have this city program for city residents where we know we can distribute funds to them efficiently. And so that was the whole purpose of that. And I like to stick with that framework. I don't want to become a office, or what is it on West Street? My nemesis. No, the other one. I don't want to become a community action agency. I don't want to have residents, trying to phone you all and set up and the office is closed and this and you got to go and it takes 8 months to get. It shouldn't be like that. I think it should stick the way it is with the recommendation that you all have made. The very first one I'm scratching out right off the bat. And I know the policy is something that the office creates, but it works in tandem with the council. And so this, I wouldn't let come in a resolution and a recommendation, anything, requiring our most recent bank statement. This isn't Plaid. You know what Plaid is? The app that runs your bank account history? No. I get it. I agree with you. I want to be the best steward of these funds. I want to make it go long term. But again, who are we to look at someone's, bank statement and say, oh, well, you spent $250 in Kohl's. Well, you shouldn't be able to qualify for this. I don't know what they're buying from that store. If they're spending $80 on Uber Eats, I don't know. Maybe they don't have a car. You get one meal from Uber Eats with the fee, with the tax, that you're paying $30 easily. And so I get it. This is all, we're putting things on the table, but that's just not going to fly. Alderman Shandemeyer.
No beard.
The beard.
No beard.
I'm sorry.
No beard. I appreciate wanting to help as many people as possible, and I do agree getting into the weeds on bank statements is a little intrusive, but we do need to have some type of guardrail here. Hearing the story of someone openly bragging about not paying their bills and their rent and just making the city do it. I got a constituent, 85-year-old, one of my favorites, sweet as can be. She missed out on the rental assistance, and I don't know if these guardrails would have prevented that, because there are a lot more people, certainly way more people, that are using it legitimately than there are abusing it. But knowing that there's some folks out there that are abusing the system, when I got someone who I really want to try to do right by missed out on it, grinds my gears a little bit. And is the bank statement the right way? Probably not, because $250 at Kohl's, yeah, they could be buying their kids back to school clothes or something, but we got to find a way to do a guardrail. I think that's appropriate.
I agree.
Okay.
And
I think they've got something they want to say about the
Oh.
bank statement. Yeah.
Yes, I just wanted to go back to the bank statement, Alderman Gay.
And let's not get stuck on this.
Oh, no,
Yeah,
not to get stuck on that. And I do understand your concern with this too. I know in the helping field, there is this line that we often come to, whether we are either empowering or enabling. And I do understand, your concern with this, as well as, not looking or crossing off certain considerations. So with Arundel Community Development Services, the reason why they get, as for lack of a better term, so intrusive, is to have that non-judgmental conversation with each applicant. We understand that financial situations are pretty rough for a lot of folks out there, and they are not going to get better. We understand that. And there are other situations where folks can be helped with that knowledge, with that empowering knowledge. And I feel that some of the long-term plans that we do have, it is geared towards that. We are not here to judge. We are not here to put folks down or to make them feel ashamed for asking for help. That's the last thing. But if that help is not really helping them, or if it's not actually making them more independent or being able to then support their community members, I feel that we failed. And a big part of this, rental assistance BGE program is to help people, get that hand up so they can then support their community.
I agree. I'm agreeing with the premise that we save more money. I'm just saying the ways that I just don't think are the most effective. The rent balance has to be within the last 30 to 45 days. I completely agree. I've even added note. I've called Melissa up because I'm like, well, if we're paying rents for, HACA tenants, it should only be under very, very, it almost has to be a very particular circumstance, because one, as she explained, and as Denise reminds me all the time, and that's part of the reason why when we created this, you had to have employment so that it would not be going to, just any and everybody out there. But so if you do have employment, you shouldn't be more, and if you do have employment, and you're 1 month behind a HACA, as you've alluded to here, 30 to 45 days, that's fine. Anything else, they actually can go to their property management and have all of that adjusted in a way that the average citizen cannot in public housing. Now, am I saying that the property management at public housing are doing that and assisting their residents to the best of their capability? Probably not. But again, I just don't want the burden to fall back on us so that we're not spending there. And so I agree, and I hope that that number of applicants in that pool drops. you know, I agree with you also on the pooling. You know, if, for example, you use the BG&E thing, somebody paid in August and then they paid in August of the last year. Obviously, that's abuse of a system. And so that can be addressed or duplicated. But again, you have to be careful with the language that you use, because once you create policy, that's the policy. And you lose discretion in saying, okay, well, yeah, you were, you know, late in January, you know, couldn't have paid or whatever, and now it's April and you still need something or whatever. Just don't be so stringent with the verbiage when you're creating this policy that we lose the ability to, you know, assist the applicant. Our payment will bring them to a zero balance. I necessarily don't agree with that. You know, it should bring them in with a manageable balance. You know, because in particular, if somebody's still working, you know, our goal might not be to pay the entire, you know, $2,000 or whatever. We could make it so that they can, you know, pay, you know, overtime or whatever. All things I'm sure you have all thought of. But I just want to make this public before we have written policy come before us. I've mentioned the cutbacks on HACA. Bay Ridge Gardens, I'm surprised. 3 years in a row, they're the top 3 receivers. Where's the communication with this property? Who's talking to the property manager and saying, hey, your neighborhood is taking up our rental assistance fund every single year. You have a problem on your property. That can be, you know, continue to happen, and particularly because I know they have a very, very active resident services coordinator, who I'm sure would, you know, communicate programming with them, the financial literacy that you all want to push, all of those things. And I've made a note to myself personally to reach out to the property manager to find out what's going on. How did you have 17 residents in FY23, 19 in FY24, and 22 in FY25? And then lastly, I agree, drop the rate. You know, when we did it again, as I said, it was peak COVID when we made this, when we adjusted the rental assistance program. So $3,000 during COVID was nothing because people had $10,000 budgets. I think the max for rental assistance should be $1,500. It's unfortunate, you know, when we created it, you know, we wanted to stay within the average. And again, if you have a 1-bedroom in Annapolis, the average rent is like $1,900. And so, you know, that's why the line was so high. But again, to conserve, you know, the money and be in line with the concerns that you all express, I think it should be dropped to $1,500, and the BGE rate should be dropped to $800. I will take full responsibility for that stupid oversight of allowing BG&E bills of $3,000 to be paid through this program. That's something that falls on me. I mean, no BG&E bill should be $3,000, even with the rate increases. And so I will take responsibility for that. But my recommendations, again, before the policy comes to the council, are that the max is $1,500 for the rent and $800 for the BG&E. I think that just addresses my general concerns with the rental assistance. I have some other stuff, just general outlines for the Office of Community Services. I see there's a question.
So for the $1,500 for rent, okay, so if they apply for rent and BG, are you saying they can get $800 for rent? I mean, $800 for BG and $1,500 for rent, or they have to stay within the $1,500?
That's another very good point. I hope with the policy, the draft, because the last time we got a draft, then it went back, and then it went to the public, and I don't know if they will follow that same pattern. That's another point. When we get it, I think it should be. I
think $1,500 total, because some people, they come with the $300 rent and then they'll have like $300 BGE. So we only giving them $600, but I am able to process both because they're still within the $1,500.
I think if you all believe that, you know, $1,500 total is fine, that would be fine. I'm curious though, and see, this is where when you open Pandora's box, it gets so sticky, because it's like, all right, well, do you allow families of 4 or 5 to have a $2,000 maximum? Because the bill in a 5-person family is going to be different than the bill for a mother and a son or a mother and a child. And so I think that again, the discretion I'd like to leave with the office. And yeah,
I was going to say, to your point, I believe that's where the vetting process comes in again. I know we don't want to do those bank statements, but as Aaron mentioned, being able to have that deeper dive of conversation. So as you also mentioned, yeah, you may be spending that $250 at Kohl's. We're not trying to judge you or say, why didn't you prioritize your rent over Kohl's? Because yeah, we don't know what's going on. But if you need that money management skills, how do we really know if we're not having a deep dive conversation with you? All we're doing is asking you to check that box on the application that says, do you need financial assistance? And then some of them do say no. But how do we really know if we do not have that deeper dive conversation with you?
Can I just jump in?
We got about 30 minutes, so
Okay.
let's start to.
Yeah, just one other thing. I mean, one of the things that I think is really beautiful about having a local program like this
meeting.
is, most of the social services programs that are out there, they're deep end crisis services, right? And they don't have time, and they're not funded to get upstream of the crisis. That is an opportunity that we have that, Department of Social Services, that's not their primary mission, right? And so, one of the things that I appreciate, they've been, like Dante was talking about, being part of Food Fridays and stuff, but they're taking the van with them, and they're doing a lot more trying to connect with people so that it's not just a transaction. It's not just come in, we'll evaluate for a check, and then like maybe see you later, right? Maybe we'll catch up with you at some point. Having that larger connection, I think, facilitates that more longer term conversation and helps get upstream. So it's not, I think that question, I take your point about feeling intrusive. And I think that part of what the team has been doing has been thinking of ways to build a partnership with people, to build on that case management, what's the family situation, what are the various ways in which someone might need services, and making sure that they're aware, not just of the city services, but there are a bunch of different things out there. That's why those connections with like the benevolence group and stuff like that's really important. And we have this opportunity in some ways of having a local program that has some flexibility, to your point, that enables a deeper conversation. And I think that one of the things in terms of this conversation that is important to keep in mind is that hopefully it's not just a transaction, right? It's not just we're going to write a check and then, away you go. And I think that context, I think helps both with the flexibility of knowing when to have discretion, but then also helps something that might be an uncomfortable conversation be less uncomfortable because it's with someone that you know a bit more.
So I'm sure there are other ways that can be done without requiring a bank statement. I
take your point about I'm not. Yeah.
And the literacy point, though, to the financial literacy point, I agree. I very, very much agree. And you sent that very well crafted email to myself and Alderman O'Neill, laying out the points excellently. And I think we both shared the same opposition in that, hey, if I'm applying for the rental assistance, it might not have the turnaround for the class or whatever. And so I don't know. Maybe if we put, hey, if you receive this assistance, you have to go to this, financial literacy course within 3 months of us processing this check. If you don't, you got to pay the city back. We could do stuff like that all the time. I mean, that's how municipalities can operate. And so, again, because I don't want you to think when leaving out of here that I'm opposed to us preserving our programs. I'm opposed to making a hard situation worse. That's all. And I just want to make sure that, the city takes care of its obligation to, be good stewards of the tax money without the cloud of our constituents being on, upset by it, maybe, Let's do this really quick. Any questions on rental assistance? Okay.
I just
and
have
that's
one more-
probably because 95% of the rental assistance is like in Ward 6. But, that's fine. And I think it makes sense because when you look at, things like the Annapolis 2040 plan and they break down ward statistics, the wealth disparities in the city is no secret. And so that's another reason why, we have some repeat offenders, et cetera. And so,
I mean, if we look at it as, we don't have to do any of this, but then also just understand that this money will be gone in 1 month. We can help every single person that applies and give them $3,000, but when someone comes, we have council members that email like, hey, what happened to the money? That was really quick. Yeah. It is 10 applicants a day. If I give all of them $3,000, I'm $30,000 in 1 day. And I'm really not kidding when I say like 10 applicants a day, if not more.
Just a question for I'm sorry, did you have did you have a question? Your mic.
Resources and partners who are willing to give the time. So when we talked about you may not have the time to go to the class, we'll come to you. We'll come to your neighborhood. We'll come to your. So it's like we're willing and ready. We just need the approval to do so. You understand? So it's not that we are too busy or we can't. No, like we'll come to your door. I come Food Fridays. I'm talking to citizens. I'm knocking on their doors. That's what I'm paid to do. So allow us to do the work. You understand? So if we can come and sit in your home and give these courses, but it's like if we're not giving the ability to do that, then are we enabling again or are we helping? We want to help. We're not stuck on the what we were talking about, the pay stubs. We're really not worried about that. It's more so, hey, we also have people, and all of us have family members and people who are also a part of the community. So we totally understand, but also are we educating, and helping? Like sustainability is our thing, right? And so it's like a lot of these people don't have the information. They don't know, and so what they do know is that the city has the money, but the information that we can provide and help is there. It's right there. And that's what we want to do to help empower these people. You understand? For those communities that we know need the assistance and we need the support and we need the help.
So are is there an organized, obviously like department plan, 6-month, year plan? Where are we in that? What phase of construction for the Office of Community Services are we in? Because, I agree with him as well. That we like the idea of being present in the community, but there's also a bandwidth that, and so I know that we're sending out some stuff to nonprofit organizations. I think there also is a lot of reduplication of funds, to be honest with you, and reduplication of efforts. Where are we in the Office of Community Services plan because in my opinion, a lot of these things, you don't need the council's authority. If you have the funds to, and you want to say, hey, like, this is our goal. We're going to create, a 6-week financial literacy tour or whatever. Those things that the council doesn't need to be involved in. So is it the funding? Is it the bandwidth issues? Is it just overall trying to organize the office and being able to firmly establish, the mission and goals?
So I'll start with, I only been here a year, so I'm still learning everything. Mm-hmm. And right now, what our focus on our vision right now, or mission, I should say, is our visibility. Okay. So the events that I've been to and ran into some of the community members, they think we're either a community action agency or they haven't heard of us at all. So that we have to separate ourselves from that. Just like you said, we don't want to be community action agency. We want to be our own entity. So my goal right now is for us to work on our increased visibility, which is why we have Dante using the van to support with Food Fridays so that he can actually be out in the communities. They can see him with the boxes. They can come up to him and talk to him, and he can actually speak to the community members. So that is our first goal that we want to work on, is increasing that visibility, and then also that community partnership and collaboration. So that goes back to with the increase in the visibility. So now we're connected with the community. Now we're partnering more with other organizations. Well, I should say strengthen, because you guys already had that partnership when I came, but it wasn't as strong as I feel like it should have been. So now we're strengthening those partnerships. So we're doing that financial empowerment with ACDS, like I mentioned, and then also just trying to touch base with everyone else that you had partnerships with that kind of, well, I shouldn't say that wasn't strengthened, but, given the transition from me being here to Laura leaving. So just trying to establish those partnerships and make sure that, we're using our resources so that we can refer them to other resources, when they do reach out to us. I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, that's a good summary. I got restless councilmen. So what we're going to do is, we'll put a pin in this. Let's set up something offline. Let's work out this policy like yesterday, because what I also want to hopefully do is have the So let's do at least by Sine Die, which is 22 days away, we should have the application portal up and running again. I have questions still that I've written down, so we'll follow up. And any other questions for the Office of Community Services? All right. Thank you so much. You all are.
Thank you.
Thanks to the public for sticking with us as well. I think this is 180% within our purview. Our title is the Housing and Human Welfare. Human welfare has to do with quality of life. You can't have a good quality of life without basic needs. So next item on the agenda is legislation R225. What I will do is make a motion to recommend this favorably. Actually, Mr. Jackson, do we have the amendments from Environmental Matters? I thought they submitted amendments to this. All right. Let's postpone this until our next meeting in April. And this is R225. Alderman Stanton.
Yes, Mr. Chair. This is a relatively simple piece of legislation.
It
The
is.
fiscal note's only $5,000. Unless the amendments are really, really shifting this, I'm perfectly content voting in favor of this and taking a look at the amendments later. Do the amendments significantly shift this, or it's your legislation? So if you want to wait for the amendments to vote up or down, I will follow your lead. But
Yeah, I wasn't prepared to introduce amendments from this committee unless we had extended public commentary, which we did not. And so I'm comfortable with the amendments from Environmental Matters. I talked to Alderman Savage. We have a general idea of kind of where we want to go on the cost. And then I've also talked with Deputy Director Giles, who is also working on some other points of clarity within the legislation, and particularly who manages this, because right now it's not assigned to a particular department. So I am comfortable making the recommendation to get this out favorably, and we'll rely on the amendments from the committee because I will have extended conversation with them. We'll rely on the amendments that come to the floor then of the council. Is that fine? Is that fine with you as well, Ms. Reuter?
our bill. It's our committee. It's our bill.
All right. Well, she's gonna have to do the amendments, and so I don't want to. So
I would like to make a favorable recommendation, Mr. Chairman.
is there a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. It's been recommended to the full body. We're now in a general discussion. Any general comment?
I'll say, Mr. Chair, I appreciate you having BG&E here today. I think that was a really important thing to add to the agenda.
Of course, no problem at all. I look forward to continued robust conversations over the next couple of months and just trying to put on the table what our constituencies want to hear the most. So with that, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Uh,
All those in favor, say aye. I'm sorry.
Aye.